Hello. Let me just close the door. Yeah, thank you for your patience and indulgence, and sorry about that. Suddenly, it was a matter of picking up Edgar because of weather and things like that. So,
Not a problem.
thank you, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. I've had an interesting week thinking about some things that I mentioned to you last week, and especially this device, which um, is helping me think through a lot of things politically.
Okay.
And it's just, it's a device that combines what I think is our political issues with the key issue of point of view and opinion and differences between those. So that's been the essence of my last week. It's a luxury I have.
Sorry, I'm just trying to move the camera around. Well, it's a luxury, but it's an important luxury.
Yeah. Uh, I also received this.
Oh, show me. Oh, Karen.
Karen's most recent book. I've only read the first 6 or 7 pages, so I haven't really gotten an essence of it. But when I browsed at Kepler's, as you had suggested, it was very interesting. Although her books were all over the place, uh, not as collected as I would have hoped. Uh,
Hmm.
how much time had you spent around Stanford to know about Kepler's?
It's a good question. I worked at CKS, which became March 1st, which became, I don't know what it became, for 1 year, but I have a close friend from that time. So I would travel back and forth quite often. And, I wouldn't say I've been to Kepler's more than 5 times properly,
Okay.
but it's always kind of been there.
Well, it's located now in a relatively new building, has been for 10 years, next to Cafe Baroni.
Yes,
And
that's correct. Yeah.
Cafe Baroni probably is the center of Menlo Park. It became the center of Menlo Park near the train station and along El Camino Real when it was built. And it changed the whole town in that sense, in my mind, because Cafe Baroni became a kind of congregation place for every generation. College kids, seniors like myself, or Bob, kids, high school kids. It's really quite wonderful to see. Although COVID did some damage to the economic viability of the place.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to chat about specifically, other than the list that I sent, after we spoke last week. And the only thing on that is really unspoken is I told you I would tell you my religious epiphany, because you had mentioned when I was in high school as a junior, age 17, I think. I was raised a Catholic and went to catechism classes.
Okay.
And by junior year, we went to the Catholic school in the evening as high school students. And there we were taught or advised by a priest named Father Fahey. And my intellectual divorce from the Catholic Church began when Father Fahey so wisely said, "It's a mortal sin to kiss a girl for more than 3 seconds."
Okay.
Which I wasn't mature enough or wise enough at the time to question. But I should have responded by saying, if kissing a girl for more than 3 seconds is a mortal sin, what's rape, etc. Father Fahey just didn't understand, and I realized that the dogma of the church, which is what he was espousing, wasn't a very adaptable or flexible or realistic. So I still feel that I'm a religious being, but not, in that mold. I'm thankful for that education because it gave me some firm opinions about what's right and what's wrong. So I'll look forward to her book, Karen's book.
Yeah, no, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. I'm sorry, I'm in maps now. I'm looking at Kepler and Boron, and it's exactly as I remember it, looking
Okay,
at the 3D.
so you were there after it had been built.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the location that I remember it at. Yes. But I'm also noticing on the side, what's that bar now? The kind of bankers bar or English bar or whatever it's called.
British Bankers Club.
Yeah, further down on that side, there's a lot of rebuilding happening, at least in Apple Maps.
Oh, yeah. Huge. I mean, 4-story office and apartment combinations.
Yeah,
And they're about to open up. So all along between El Camino Real and the train tracks has been developed from, well, in both directions, from Kepler's, half of the distance between Kepler's and Stanford Shopping Center has been developed as apartment and office buildings, and they are yet to open. They're still soon open. And then between Kepler's and it would be Valparaiso Avenue, which you may not know. So in both directions, the town has changed, and towns along the peninsula have changed earlier. In San Carlos, where our son lives, for example, he's probably 10 years younger than, or no, 8 or 9 years younger than you are. They live in San Carlos, and the whole area between El Camino and the train tracks has developed into apartment buildings. So it's changing.
yeah. San Carlos is a place I only know by name.
Yeah.
On the train or driving past.
Now,
Yeah.
are you in London, or are you
Yes.
in you mentioned a suburban name at one point in time, I thought.
Yeah.
A new town.
No, not a new town. Very old town, Wimbledon.
Okay. I knew there was something that I recognized. So what are we looking at?
Yeah, I just started this a short while ago, and I'm just wondering if it's interesting for you to comment on it. I've been working on, I sent this PDF to the group yesterday saying, oh, links and stuff are important, blah, blah, blah. And, I've done things for reader, author, and citations and all of that stuff. It was time to step back and question the foundation. So, here's a few things of what we're trying to help the reader to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I guess my number one objective would be to understand the author's condensed message in a relatively short piece of period of time, along the line of not having to read the whole book to get the essence of the message.
That's
Now,
what I'm trying to do with number one.
okay.
No, that's something else. So that would be something like that.
Yeah. One could argue that should be the author's responsibility, But it's surprising to me that it's often difficult to get at what an author is talking about. You know, any Murphy Paul's book, which I've mentioned several times, and you also, it occurred to me that her narrative approach, the storytelling approach, in a sense, almost precludes concise summaries, which are analytical in nature. You know, they're at odds with each other, the approaches.
On that point, I got another piece from Barbara Tversky today. We have one that's a transcript that she's working on. So I went through it today and I bolded what I think are the real headings, the real pull-out ideas, right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, there's quite a lot here where I didn't pull out anything. And then I'm kind of, again, in the ending. So the reason I'm showing you is this her job? Is it my job? Or should it be systematic? Yeah.
I'd say first of all, it's the author's job, but I think you're very much on target when you say that the tools should help the author do that. And the approach should help the author do that. I guess third, one could say that the editor should help the author do that. But I guess I don't see or understand the editing process enough, because it seems like one of the editor's kind of standard approaches is to eliminate, because they're never there, headings and bold text. You and I are both visual people. You've given me enough information now for me to understand that. And I now, even more than before, put credence in, my first glance at an article or a set of pages. So I like what you're doing here a lot.
Well, the issue is it may not be what she likes. I'll give her a chance to review it like anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also she's saying here, words have powers, graphics have superpowers. I strongly disagree with that. I think it's rubbish. But that's not the point. That's my point of view. That's not her view.
It's funny. My reaction is that I agree with the statement, but it's what's really important about the words are the ideas within the words. The ideas are what's pregnant, not the text. Why do you agree, given your visual nature, that it's rubbish? Why do you think it's rubbish?
I have just got a huge hang up on text. I think text in itself is so important, and yes, it needs to be augmented in this, that, and the way or the other. And yes, graphics are important, but I am just sick and tired of. This comes down to my prejudice. But for God's sake, it has to download again. I'm sick and tired of. Text is great, but it's better if it's got sound, like speech, because speech is better. Or it's better if it's a diagram. It's like I've had too much of that. This can take forever.
Yeah.
Of course we can multiply the usefulness of it by giving it more stuff.
Do you read quickly or slowly?
Relatively quickly.
Okay, I read quite slowly, and that may be a major factor in my biases. I found out in high school, so 60 years ago, or more, that I had a difficulty with my eyes focusing. So I couldn't jump from parts of a sentence to parts of a sentence as easily as I might have if my eyes had a more focal unfocally quick ability. Maybe that's an excuse on my part, but that's why I think I underline or highlight and want to see summaries of documents, because it takes me a longer while to read something than many quick academics.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point.
Are you at liberty to convey what you just showed me via email if I agree to do nothing with it? I mean, other than read it and kind of think about it?
Oh, this bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and that's this section 5, how to do that, because okay, I'm just going to take this PDF. Oh, I've emptied the bin. That's a bad idea. But if that's an ACM article. Yeah, so this thing here that I sent, I think you got a copy too, right?
Okay. I didn't recall getting something from you in the last few days, but thank you.
So the thing that I'm trying to work on here is things like, let's say you read this bit and you find it interesting. So if you copy that, you already know you can paste an author as a citation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is, so let's pretend I found this interesting, check this out, and I paste that. Let me just send it to myself and I'll show you the point. This is something we're testing. It's one half of an experiment. There we go. Right, so here's the point. This is the cited text, copied text. This is the name of the author, name of the document, and page number.
Mm-hmm.
This below is a Google search for the title of the document. The reason for that is, if I copy from this one, for instance, you see it's the same thing. There I took the title of the document and put it into a search as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to do is quite simply, you know, we've talked about citation annotation kind of stuff, right? So currently, have you seen this? I think you have, right? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. So the question is, if you copy as a citation this text, currently the clipboard gets all of this extra BibTeX citing stuff that it can use in author, but if it pastes it to something else, that's not there, only the text. So what I did, first of all, we've extended it by having this, the document name. And by the way, that's going to be called file name, because it's actually useful. And
Yeah.
then, because it's all about having access. And so then the question is, if you paste it in software that doesn't know Visual Meta, what should it look like? Maybe it should be more human formatted like this. So maybe we've removed the other stuff because we don't need it. And then I thought it would be interesting to have this information here so that you could click on that link. Because if you, on this one, if I do it now, it actually shows me the link to the download of this document because it's online.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that for mine because I haven't put it online. I just realized this is formatted wrong. So what do you think? Should it paste it, forget my signature, should it paste it like this all on one line? Or should it be a difference between the link and this?
I would, my first reaction is that it depends on the punctuation at the end of the first line.
Because this is what I had drafted. And this is what we have now.
Well, the underlining of the link helps distinguish between the line above and the line below.
So you think it's fine like this?
Yes, as long as the underlining is there.
I won't argue with the programmers then. So this is what it could look like in author. So here's what I've told the guys that for author and for other clipboards, there's two clipboards. You know the clipboard, that when you copy something on the Mac, it can have different things for different applications, right? So
No.
let's say you copy text that has bold and other formatting.
Yeah.
Or let's say a copy from a web page. So it has one that is rich text, one that is HTML, and one that is plain text.
Okay.
So the idea here is already we have this where you go to author and paste. It is actually a proper citation because it has all this magic stuff here included. And yeah, they made a bit of a mistake there, but that's okay. So the question then is what to do when it goes outside. So here are some notes for them. So now we have this thing. When you click on a citation, like number 27 here in Reader, gives you the citation information. But I realized that it's really useless because it's got stuff you don't need. So the first thing is, while it's useless, we also want it to be more useful. So here's the new version: name, title, year, and then below.
I like the brevity.
Yeah, it's easier, right?
Much.
And then if there was a link to where it came from, like we have, then you click on this web thing and it does the web search. But also document. If the file name was in the visual meta when this was cited, then if you click on document, it will search your hard drive for that document and open it for you. And if the page number was included, it'll open it to the right page. And if there was quoted text, it'll highlight the text.
God, that would be wonderful in terms of just pure research.
Yeah, I'm hoping to make the act of citing and the act of following a citation much clearer and much more direct. So that was the point of that article. The title of the article is the sentence, "Everything is connected," is really damaging because of course everything is connected, but not in a useful way. And it kind of says that most of knowledge work is automatic, which is of course not true.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, it's an interesting discussion in the group to try to make it better. And it's quite fun to actually be able to implement some of this stuff.
Is your book essentially finished?
The book, I have a problem with the Barbara Tversky article. It's very long and involved, and something happens when I copy from her version into the book. And it's a technical thing that I'm getting. I'm hoping Jacob is working on it now. And then there is 2, maybe 3 articles I'm waiting on, but I may just have to cut them out because we need some time for proofing. We need some time for the guys who are doing VR tests to be able to have the final. So yes and no. I would say give it a week.
Good. Progress.
Yeah, progress. But now that we talked about these connecting things and so on, if you would like to talk about your perspective on politics, that would be very interesting, especially now that we have the G20 meeting and we have everybody condemning Russia. And what does Russia do? They send dozens more missiles into Kiev on that very day during the very speech. It's just, and then you have people actually, and the Republican Party saying we should stop giving money to Ukraine. How in the world does this happen? Anyway, over to you.
Yeah. That last point absolutely baffles me. And it's kind of what's happening on CNN with pardon my French, with Fucker Carlson and his support of the Russian point of view, it's astounding to me.
Yeah.
It borders on criminality as far as I'm concerned. But I understand in a free speech world that's okay. In World War II, there were Germans in the U.S. who were basically supporting Germany or Japanese.
Well, the Japanese were interred, many of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Interestingly enough, our second son, Damien, who's the basketball coach, married the daughter of two Japanese Americans who were not interned because they lived in Wyoming for some reason. So I've actually read a little bit more thoroughly about that, and it's unfortunate what happened as far as I'm concerned. But to go back to the general political issue, what happened on Tuesday, as far as I'm concerned, is a great surprise and wonderful, because it has renewed faith in the American people's judgment, which I was beginning to question, and I and friends were beginning to question, because of the supposed red wave that was coming, in spite of the absurd policies that were being discussed. So sanity prevailed on Tuesday, which is good news. Do you follow American politics much, or are you more ensconced in Norwegian and British politics?
Not so much Norwegian at all, and of course, quite a lot of the British. However, the whole world has to listen to a lot of American politics. We don't know about specific senators where they're up to necessarily, but there is a lot of, we hear.
I sent you 2 pages if you had a chance to read them. One was about capitalism and the other was about democracy. And so I'm very much a critic of both, in that corporations have taken over the world, and including American politics. And that's how I got involved in this whole idea that corporate power in America was kind of a hidden phenomenon. It wasn't talked about in a political context. There were liberals and there were conservatives and there were pro-government people and there were libertarians, but not pro-corporation and pro-citizen, which is really a pro-independent point of view. So I've become a pro-citizen believer and concluded that the only way things are going to change is if we get enough of a kind of progressive populist force to just, both right and left, I suppose, to change, to overcome both political parties, which is about a 0.1% chance. Anyway, so it's discouraging on one hand, the reality of the situation, but I'll probably spend a lot of my time thinking about it in the rest of my life, whatever it's 2 or 5 or 10 or 15 years at age 80.
When it comes to these issues, I'm kind of caught in a bit of a middle ground, because I've been to so many of those meetings in California where it is so much discussion, also one in Croatia with Californians, on really good ideas for progressive, bringing the world forward. But then, there are still quite a few things that there's still things of, a lot of the individual rights and a lot of things come up. But the thing is, I don't see how we can, we can write a book about it, we can do a TV show about it, but people will, if they already are sold, they will watch. it's not going to really convert people to that way of thinking. And the only thing that I've decided in my tiny little world is quite simply help people understand when they read, help people communicate when they write.
Mhm. I had a very interesting experience last night. A friend whom I walk with twice a week had signed up with his wife for a Stanford class held in the evening, kind of generally about democracy and kind of what's going on in the world. And the organizer is a professor named Jim Steyer, whose brother Tom Steyer ran for president in 2020, I think, and had some success, but not a lot. But last night he had 3 guests in a discussion in the auditorium at the Stanford Business School. One guest was Kara Swisher, who's a journalist, a well-known and journalist from previously of the New York Times. She recently left. Another was Reed Hastings, who was one of the founders of PayPal and then formed LinkedIn, which is a hell of an accomplishment, which he then sold to, I think, Microsoft for some $28 billion. So he's now an independent VC. And the third participant was Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google. And I mention it because all 3 were incredibly intelligent, thoughtful people. And especially Pichai, I guess, because you hear about both the EU and part of the Biden administration wanting to go after Google as well as Facebook. And what he was saying about kind of rational approaches to that was just brilliant and low key. So I guess, bottom line, I thought it was important for me because to have 3 people who were so intelligent and balanced and commonsensical after a lot of the insanity that had been threatening the nation, before the election on Tuesday, it was a big breath of fresh air, and which one can say thank you for. It's nice to see that opposing point of view, and on several occasions when I've watched these classes, where there may be 500 people in the audience live and 500 people at least remote via Zoom, I find myself wishing that there were 1 million people watching, or 10 million, rather than just 1,000, because the message is so damn important. And in a way, technology is making that more possible now. Simply because there can be joint meetings like that. That's more the norm now than it was 3 years ago. Before it was either or, now it's both and.
As a small aside, people talking like that was what Café Baron was for me. The other table might very well have someone going into, it was just amazing. Yeah, it is important what you're talking about, and we do need more. It's also, it's going to be hard to get people of the other persuasion to be part of it. I really think that's a huge thing, and I think I'd like to see religion help, but then, look at gun-toting Republicans protect the fetus and then shoot the intruder. Just, don't feed people. It's socialism. Oh, okay. So Jesus didn't do anything with fishes and loaves? No, that did not. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's bizarre. And one thing So Edgar is now 5.5, as you know, and he very often does not want to hear Dada tell him what to do or tell him anything. He's a mini teenager, but there are still moments where I can teach him things. And it's so interesting when he will listen to me. I haven't figured out what's behind it, but in terms of the messages you're talking about, who can bring such messages to that kind of people? How can that dialogue begin? I mean, when I was a teacher, I was just impressed that students listened to me. That was the role. But who the heck would a Republican, scared, angry person listen to with the aim of a bit more harmony in the world? What kind of character would that be?
One of the political opinions I've formed is that Congress should be forced, in the US, Congress should be forced to take an official opinion poll of American citizens at least once a year. So it's not a private poll, it's an official government poll. And it would be somewhat akin to voting. And the issue would be asking people to name their 10 most important issues in the nation. And then Congress would be obligated to establish a task force to address that issue. Now, in mentioning that to a friend, he said, I don't have much faith in task forces. That's because the tools don't really exist for task forces. But if, that's why this is important to me, because what's in the middle here is a sphere which symbolically represents a problem to me. We'll say one of those 10 important problems. And what's around that sphere are 6 truncated pyramids, or what I think of as prisms, to help look at that problem from different points of view. So a discussion in this kind of framework would have to talk about both the problem or issue itself, as well as alternate ways of looking at the problem. So people who are in the discussion come to understand how their point of view might differ from person number 2 or 3 or 4. So there would be a simultaneity of discussion, which I think is important to overcome the problem of opposing points of view not talking to each other. Anyway, I've got a long way to go to develop that idea before it's anything viable. But I'll be putting it on paper along with the kind of starts that you saw last week.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely very, very important.
Do you understand why I mentioned George Lakoff's book?
I think so, but it would be probably better if you expand.
Well, you were talking, I think, about people's emotions. And one of the things that's fascinating about that book and his approach, is that he talks about conservative and liberal values evolving from family structure. And the best example of that comes to mind is the Robin Williams movie, which is, well, it's about a prep school. What's the name of it? Where one of the bright young kids commits suicide because his father has been so oppressive in terms of dictating what he does. And he didn't give the kid, the child, the son, the freedom to pursue his own dreams or wishes. And Lakoff basically talks about conservatives typically grow up in a very rigid family structure, with a dad with extremely strong points of view rather than a flexible point of view. So it's interesting in terms of the emotions that are triggered by the environment we grow up in. I probably grew up in a very liberal, you know, give the children freedom until they abuse it, and we never abused it. So I've kind of got the same attitude toward our kids and grandkids. I think I've said to you before that it's been absolute pleasure to have one of our twin daughters living with us for 7 years, and especially her 7-year-old daughter. Which is why I'm so interested in Edgar. I just think seeing kids as they grow is a miraculous luxury, a privilege. So I enjoy seeing him on your screen when he comes in to visit.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice for you to say that. I share the sentiment with watching people grow. One of Edgar's school friends, we pick up him and his brother and drive them back on Wednesdays for practical reasons to help the family. But they have a little sister who is now maybe 1 month, but I met her first when she was about 2 weeks. And she is so special. I get to babysit her. And
Yeah.
just if she gets grumpy, I lift her up and shake her so she can feel that she has legs and she goes completely crazy, right? All the stages of growth are incredible. I share that.
Yeah. When I was 10 years old, my godmother and aunt, my mother's younger sister, came to town in this suburb north of Chicago. And for some reason, I was her major babysitter for the next week. Her mom was still around, but she let me just take care of the baby. And I fell in love with children as a 10-year-old.
That's
And
nice.
I'm still very close to that cousin, though I haven't seen her frequently. But I learned that she went into architectural school in part because cousin Jim had gone to architectural school, which I find hard to believe. But anyway, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And we're so grateful that we have the family living with us now because like yesterday, Edgar and Anton, they took all the pillows in the living room and made a massive fort. Anton has a tablet of some sort and he does a bit of things in there, which is totally fine, of course. But to see them spend so much time on physically moving things about, despite being a digital person, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
It builds the imagination, I think, in a different way. So yeah, it's super nice.
I tend to be I tend to want to help Sydney when she runs into a problem when she's building things. I might, can I get a stick that's 5 or 6 feet long, a 1x2 that helps her build a structure so it's, self-supporting. Just little things like that, kind of. But the initiative is all coming from, she and friends. So I should run, but I do enjoy the conversations.
Yeah, me too. I really appreciate it. And yeah, no, it's 6
I
o'clock.
will, if I have any thoughts about the Barbara Tversky piece, I will send them to you via email.
Excellent. All right, feel free to come into any of our Monday, Friday meetings as well, and we'll catch up again soon. Very much look forward.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.